final message to his son, Daniel says, "The pain in my heart is far more than I can process. But looking through thousands of pictures and videos this past week, I'm also filled with tremendous pride. Your 14 years were full of so many challenges, but you met them all with such grit, and you somehow kept your trademark joy in spite of it all. Being your dad was the honor of a lifetime."
A father buries his son, 14 years old, and the world is supposed to just move on. But here's the thing though, you already know what I'm about to say. Just like I know that something about this story doesn't sit right. Daniel Coleman. You know him as Danny Go, the guy with the silly dances and the songs that get stuck in your head for days. 5 billion views on YouTube, a Netflix debut. And while the cameras rolled and the merch sold, his son Isaac was dying. Let me take you back. Isaac was born with Fanconi anemia, rare genetic disorder, the kind that doesn't just take your health. It takes everything: physical abnormalities, mobility issues, and a cancer risk so high it's not a matter of if, but when. Last December, they found it in his mouth. Extensive surgery followed, but the cancer just kept spreading. Now pause right there. I need you to stay with me here because this is the part that broke something in me. By April, Isaac was in hospice, and Daniel and his wife Mindy made a choice: make each day as enjoyable and restful as possible. That's what they said publicly. But you and I both know what hospice really means. It means you've stopped fighting. It means you're just waiting. And here's what nobody talks about. The same month Isaac entered hospice, their children's show debuted on Netflix. The same month. Actually, wait, let me rephrase that because I don't want you to miss the weight of it. While their son was actively dying, while he was receiving what they called palliative care, Danny Go was launching a global streaming show. 5 billion views. And the world kept clapping. She said, "Daniel wrote this beautiful tribute after Isaac died. The pain in my heart is far more than I can process. But looking through thousands of pictures and videos, I'm filled with tremendous pride. Your 14 years were full of challenges, but you met them with grit, and you kept your trademark joy. Being your dad was the honor of a lifetime. That's beautiful. It is. But here's where it gets dark, really dark. Where was that grit when Isaac needed his dad present? Where was that trademark joy when the cameras weren't rolling? You see, this is the pattern. Hollywood. And yes, YouTube stardom is Hollywood now. They don't want you to see what happens behind the closed door. They want the tribute. They want the tears. They want Miss Rachel saying, "So much love to your family." They want Blippi calling Isaac bravest knight. Oh, and look, I'm not saying they didn't love their son. That's not what this is. What I'm saying is that the machine, it never stops. Even when a child is dying, even when a family is supposed to be sitting in silence, holding hands, saying goodbye, the show must go on. And that phrase, that's not cute. That's demonic. Let me speak to you quietly for a second, like really quiet, because this matters. If you have children, and I know many of you do, ask yourself this. Would you be filming? Would you be counting views? Would you be accepting congratulations from Miss Rachel while your son took his last breaths? Of course you wouldn't. And the reason for that, well, you'll see. The reason is you're not part of that world. That world where children become content, where suffering becomes a thumbnail, where a father writes a public tribute while the algorithm keeps feeding. 5 billion views. Think about that number, 5 billion. That's not a family, that's an industry. And Isaac, he was just 14. He had physical abnormalities, mobility issues, cancer in his mouth. He couldn't run from the cameras, couldn't hide from the brand, couldn't say, "Dad, please." Not today. And now they want you to believe this is a story about grit, about joy, about a brave knight. And sure, Isaac was brave. But just like I know, that bravery was never the full story. The full story is what they buried under the tribute, under the Netflix launch, under the 5 billion views. They want you to cry with them, to comment, "Repeat Isaac," to share the video, to keep watching, to keep feeding the machine that kept rolling while that little boy slipped away. And here's what I can't stop thinking about. Daniel and Mindy have another son, Livy, born in 2015. Levi is still here, still growing, still watching, still learning what it means to be a child in a house where tragedy becomes content. So I'm going to end this the only way that makes sense. Not with resolution, not with a bow, but with anger. Real, righteous anger. They told you a story about a brave knight. But knights don't die alone while their fathers film tributes for strangers. Knights don't get buried under Netflix launch dates. And you already knew something was off. That's why you clicked. That's why you stayed. So here's my question. And I want you to answer in the comments. If you were dying, would you want your last days to be a YouTube video? Or would you want your father to just put the phone down?